See?
The other topic we wanted to talk about is you shared this one with me
Yes.
just ghost jobs. Like
Ghost jobs, fake job listings.
I'm noticing those as well, but yeah.
Basically, it's a
ahead.
phenomenon. So it was this clip from Bloomberg. Basically, it's a phenomenon of fake job listings. So companies are posting more and more fake job listings. So these are job listings that are for a job that either doesn't exist at all. So the company has no such job that they're hiring for, or it's for the job that the company was hiring for, but it's already been filled, but then they leave the job opening up. Or they were going to hire for it, but due to budget cuts, they're no longer hiring for it, but then they leave the job opening up. So it's two conversations. There's one where they're very deliberately putting out job postings that aren't real. And then there's another one where they're leaving job postings up for longer than they actually need to be.
And the interesting thing for me that you said was it ties a little bit into this quiet quitting thing we talked about. I think that one of the last times we recorded, because basically quiet quitters are looking at extra jobs, and they're trying to attract the quiet quitters, kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
or keep them in their database for when they actually have a job.
Yeah, well, in general, the fake job listings thing, what they're saying, the argument why companies do it is so they can have a talent pool that they can easily pull from, because they might not always be looking for.
It's actually the opposite of what employees are doing. They're looking at a couple companies like, okay, if you have a job opening, I'll apply for you. And now the companies are doing the same thing. Like, okay, if you are available, I'm trying to hire you.
Well, I mean,
let me create my pool already.
It ties into the bigger conversation about how, people's relationship to work has changed dramatically in the last 10 years.
Fucked up by
in
COVID.
Western society, and it's just more so rooted in, very fast-paced, very temporary. So the whole thing about, you need to switch jobs every 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, if everybody's doing that, well, then that means I also have to hire new people every 2 years, right? Like, this is literally what it also means for the companies. That if you include that some people are quiet quitting, people are doing remote work so they can work 2 different jobs at the same time, 2 different full-time jobs at the same time.
That shit is sick.
You're getting this attitude towards work that is far more. And it goes, I don't want to go on a whole tangent, but it goes bigger into the rise of like the gig economy and freelancing work becoming more popular, private contracting work. People are becoming a lot more entrepreneurial. So even if you think about a job, if you're working switching jobs every 2 years, like, sure, you have a job, but you're really not that different from maybe like a freelancer or private contractor who has a client and then just keep switching a different client. Or if you're working multiple jobs,
the only thing
you're like a freelancer that has clients.
Yes.
So it's people are becoming more mobile.
The only thing between you and a freelancer, if you switch so often, is that you require a little bit more stability. You require the employee.
Well, you get more benefits. You still get the employee. You get all of the benefits of an employee.
You want the more benefits.
Yeah.
And you stay a little bit longer than a freelancer would. Freelancer would live after a year or 6 months.
6 months, yeah, something.
And
like that.
you would say 2 years. I'm gonna do for you,
and that's the thing. It's very much this sort of like, I get why companies are then putting out more fake job listings. So it's easy to put, and you'll see in the clip they'll put it all on the companies of like, oh well, that's not. They should maybe not do that or blah blah.
Let me see. If I get why they're doing it. I have a clip here, but I do not know. Suggested.
Cooler than expected, but over the past 3 months, payrolls are up 170,000. That's certainly a good enough clip to keep the labor market healthy.
According to June's Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, commonly known as JOLTS, the number of unemployed persons per job opening stands at 0.8, indicating a tight labor market.
Job openings and labor turnover, known as JOLTS. JOLTS coming in near expectations, 8,184,000. Actually, that's better than expectations.
Despite a tight labor market on paper, many workers are still struggling to find jobs, indicating a disconnect between the data and the real-life experiences of job seekers.
The rise of ghost jobs is muddying the jobs report. It's making it harder for the Fed to make decisions and understand what the labor market looks like. Anecdotally, people will tell you that it's very tough out there. We've talked about this notion of unhirables. People who are out of work, got laid off, and just can't find a job. They can't buy an interview. There are people coming out of college and they're finding that they're putting out 500, 800, 1,000 applications and they can't get an interview, let alone a job. And yet, when you look at the base numbers on the job boards, it would seem like we're in an incredibly robust hiring market, and that ghost jobs are creating a fake perception, and no one knows how fake that perception is. And the Fed and economists are trying to understand what's real and what isn't, and they haven't yet figured out the silver bullet to understand.
Yeah. So that's the big thing, is that it's sort of also
It's ruining. It's
sucking up
ruining
the statistics. But if you put out a lot of fake job, for those who maybe are following, if you put out a lot of fake job listings, right? Eventually, that's what they use that to calculate, the state of the labor market, and figure out how many job openings. That's job openings to labor turnover survey.
I would almost feel like they're doing it on purpose because they did not like what happened after COVID, when there were more, when employees had it so much easier switching. After and during COVID, there were just so many jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They just could go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount of people that I saw switch jobs and went from left to right to do whatever. They took every 6 months or something. They tried out something else because this employer did not want to let me work from home anymore. So I got angry. Or they didn't have a new laptop for me, so I switched and I went to another one with new laptops. Those are the kind of level of things that I heard and saw online and also saw around me. And now it seems like it's way more difficult for people to get jobs, but they want to keep up that perception for some reason. And I do not know and understand why, really. But
I mean, they mentioned a couple of reasons. They mentioned that obviously they want to keep their talent pool open.
Yeah.
So they can easily hire. So you could argue that it's maybe a vicious cycle sort of effect. Like, first, you have all these job openings, right? And you have more openings than people. So it's actually hard for companies to hire people, right? So that you have first that it starts like that, and that's the actual reality.
Yeah.
Companies then dealing with this issue say, okay, well, it's hard for us to find people. And we know it's a labor market where it's hard to find people. So even if we don't need people right now, let's preemptively make sure we have listings out there all the time to have people coming in, so that when we do need someone, we can very quickly get someone. But then what that then leads to is you have all these openings that are out there that further exacerbate the perception, right? That there's this big labor market where there's all these openings and anyone can find a job, when really it's actually it's not the case, and people are actually finding a hard time to get jobs. A much harder time than it actually is. So I think that's the reason. I think people also said that it's a way for companies to make themselves look good.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's another one. If you put a lot of job openings,
that makes sense.
It makes it seem like you're growing, you're making money and all this other stuff.
Especially after recently, where they have fired an insane amount of people, especially in tech. Most companies don't look good anymore. Like, people, at least I know for me as a UX designer, I saw online a lot of people saying, yeah, go to Google, Apple, go to all those kind of places. Apple did not fire too many people, but Meta and Google, they slashed whole departments almost. And it would make sense that people look at them now a little bit weird, for like, yeah, I don't want to work with you. But if you pad yourself with a couple ghost openings, you look immediately a little bit better. Like, okay, you guys
still hiring,
you guys slashed, but okay,
growing.
you guys are still. Spotify was one of them as well here in Europe that basically fired a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
If they would pad with some things, that would make sense. Yeah, I've seen a couple of those ghost positions pop up on LinkedIn.
How do you know there were ghost positions?
Mostly, at least here in the Netherlands, they mention it in it. Like, this is not a real position. This is just yes.
What's the point of that?
They want to have a conversation so you could be in a database. And I've noticed this. That's one part, and the second.
I think we have laws for that. That might be it.
I think that there might be a law for that, but also the second.
I know that we have rules here about making job postings.
Yes,
you can't just put just whatever.
Yes, you need to be very clear.
Whatever, yeah.
But they style it exactly as a job position.
Yeah.
But it's just one little line
at the top. If it's vague enough, then
yes, it looks like a job position, but it's just that one little line. Hey, we're open for conversation. But what I also noticed is that every time you do want to apply for something, even if it is real or not, and you don't always know that, you need to make an account, and they store your data for a while. So then they make the pool.
Well, you make an account where with them or what?
Yes. So
you have LinkedIn. If you do LinkedIn, you have a LinkedIn account, right?
This is what I found weird, and that's why for a while I also stopped looking and applying for shit. They suddenly started requiring me to make an account for everything. Every time I wanted to just, hey, let me share my CV with you as a company. I want to just have a talk. Like, I'm good where I'm at, but I also always want to see what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Let me share my CV. No, you need to make a whole ass account, give all kinds of information, and we're gonna stay. And on below that, it's always like, yeah, we're gonna store your information for at least 6 months. And that is the whole talent pool idea. Like,
Talent database.
if you have an account with them, they can keep your information, and they can link that to your CV and your information. And
if they will reach out to you when they feel like it. Yeah, if it is, like, again, it's probably the response to it maybe really being hard to hire people. It's using all of these tactics, but then that makes it, it fucks up the numbers for the job listings.
It's a weird place out there for people to, when it comes to jobs. Like, it's hard in the sense of there's from what I also know from other designers, and this is mostly tech. I'm speaking tech, but it is. There are jobs there, and there's a bunch of. There are not a lot of jobs, and everybody's fighting for the same ones.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of them. There's
in tech.
Mm-hmm. There's a group of them that are just being left behind, and nobody's looking at them. So it looks like maybe it's not the same thing as ghost jobs, but it looks like, oh, there's plenty of jobs, but people are all going for the same shit.
Yeah.
And that is a whole problem. And then you have also the other companies that are trying to muddy the water where, let me put just some random shit up because I want to create a pool for when
I do
in
need
26 or 27, then we are going to hire like a too big of a company.
I think that's the biggest one, is that they want to have the talent pool out there so that when they need someone, they get someone. I think there's also the thing about making your company look bigger. I don't know. I think
which is
a little bit, but
the whole talent pool thing is also kind of sick to me because now you have the talent pool. Now what? Like, you don't know.
So if you need to hire, you can easily hire. You have more.
Yeah, but that person is not the same person as they were half a year ago. When you are ready to hire, that person is not going to be the same person. Maybe they switch already 2 times and they want triple the money you're asking for.
True, possible.
The pool does not mean anything after like 6 months.
That's why they have to keep doing it, to keep replenishing it. That's why they have to keep putting the shit out. That's the problem, right? Yeah, the pool is never done. That's the problem.
The pool's ever filling. Yeah.
And then you fuck up the thing. So what it does is, and that goes to a bigger conversation of how it affects the perception of the labor market. If those numbers are used to determine the state of the labor market, it's also used to determine, interest rates by the Federal Reserve and things like that.
Used to determine minimum wages. Used to determine how much are we year over year. Give more. Like, yeah, you're right.
So that's the.
If they think, oh, there's a shit ton of jobs, inflation might not be that bad. People are just not wanting to work.
Yeah. But if you look at that's what the number they showed before this with the to hire ratio. You see the openings to hire ratio. You see way more openings than
from 8 to 10 to 4.
Yeah, for people that are being hired. So that means that there's a lot of these openings are bullshit. Because if you really want to hire someone, you hire someone eventually.
It's also like
it also allows I think it's also a way for companies to be pickier.
Yes, I was about to say that as well. But companies like company owners are weirdly picky. Like
yeah, they're more picky these days.
But for no reason. You're asking. I saw a junior designer thing. Like, within design, we use a program called Figma. It now exists for the podcast, for the people that are listening. It now exists for like about 8 years.
Okay, I was gonna say a little bit.
5 to 8 years, something like that.
That's not old.
I see a junior position for a UX designer.
10 years of experience.
10 years. Why?
10 years. 10 years.
This shit doesn't exist.
10 years of experience in something that exists. 5
to 8.
Yeah,
but why are you so picky?
Maza. It's just absolutely. No, they're going crazy.
Why do you require somebody who just finished school, a junior, to
10 years of experience,
already have like 2 to 5 years experience?
It's vicious.
That kind like everybody's trying to be cheap. You're trying to hire somebody who you should be paying double the money for half the money. That's what they're doing. I recognize that. That's the goal. Like you say, hey, I need somebody with 10-year experience, but you're a starter, like entry to the job market. You're just trying to get cheap labor, and basically every company. During COVID, I think I said this to you. We had the same conversation. I think a lot of these companies should not exist.
They shouldn't.
Because they keep talking about we cannot pay our people. If you cannot pay your people, you should not exist.
You're talking about, especially in tech.
Not only
yeah, but in general.
Yeah.
But especially in tech, where you have this low interest rate environment where money's cheap and these venture capital firms are just throwing money at startups. You're seeing, I think they was talking about, this happened, of course, after the interest rate hikes.
Yeah.
And money was no longer cheap.
Yeah.
And things get tight because that's what the point is of an interest rate hike. It's supposed to cool down the economy. It's what it's supposed to do. And that does lead to people getting fired because less money is given to these companies, especially startups that you have entire startups that are unprofitable they're just running off of investor money. This is what they're running off. They're not profitable. They have no real plan of becoming profitable. And then the money dries out. The money dries out. The money dries out, and they can't hire people anymore. They can't afford to hire people anymore, and that's how you get these layoffs, or you get these startups going down because they were never meant to be running in the first place. They didn't make any money.
There's so many of those kind of companies that I've seen in the last couple of years. Like it doesn't make any like the whole idea of living off investor money was the worst thing that we could have done to entrepreneurship. Because it first made people hire too much, then it made them
scale too fast.
It made them scale too fast. Then it made them stop trying to make full finished products. That's how we got
that's the other
one. AI shit.
Yeah, that's the other one.
And when that bubble burst, then they became very picky about people, and now they're doing the ghost job shit. Now they're angry that people do want some. People want to work comfortably. Like if you want to work from home, which is now after COVID should be a very regular request. Hey, I want to work from home 2 to 3 days a week. Not a full week, not the full 5 days, but hey, I have a kid. The kid is 1 or 2 years old. I want to be able to take care of them and not have to pay for childcare for a child. I only know the Dutch word. You know what I mean? Like you don't want somebody to
childcare,
daycare. That I don't want to pay for daycare too much. I want to be at home. Like that's a reasonable request as a company owner. But for some reason, a lot of these companies should not exist. That's the thing I keep going back to. And this topic here, the ghost jobs, makes me feel the same way. A lot of these companies should not exist. I even go back to during COVID. We said a lot of restaurants went down, and we saw that on everything. A lot of these restaurants should not have existed because they were clearly not paying their people and not good enough. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird. To me, this whole thing just the ghost jobs is also just a weird development, and we're gonna get weirder and weirder and weirder.